So I'm going to ask each of our panelists to just introduce themselves and maybe a minute about your company and what you do there, and then we're going to get right into the moderated panel.
So I'm Benjamin Cheung. I'm from SoundCloud, technical recruiting partner there. Been in the game for about 1 to 2 years or so. Prior to SoundCloud, I was at a Series B CRE tech company doing biz ops, which basically means they just threw anything that they wanted to me. So I started doing like marketing, sales operation, started learning about Salesforce and Salesforce administration. Then I came to a point where I realized I needed a little bit of direction in my life, so I ended up doing tech recruitment at my next role, which is pretty cool. And yeah, SoundCloud is pretty much an open platform, really enabling everyone to discover new music and for creators to reach people all around the world. It's pretty cool. Chance the Rapper gave us a shout out at the Grammys. That was really awesome. And yeah, it's pretty much the overview.
So we're going to try to keep this interactive. I believe Jamie sent you some questions. We're probably going to throw them out and come up with some new ones, so I hope you didn't prepare too much. For some of the questions, I'm going to ask an individual member of the panel. For others, I may ask the whole group. So we're going to mix it up. The first question is, and this is a topic that is really kind of fascinating to our team over at Crowded. The majority of the developers tonight and the majority of the developers in the Crowded platform are what we would label between junior and intermediate developers. And one of the issues that we see in the market today, and I think it becomes a difficult pain point for candidates in general, is they may apply for a role that says junior developer, and then it says on the bottom, oh yeah, you need 9 years of experience and a PhD. So that necessarily doesn't make that a junior developer role. So I'd love to start with Natalie. We go right down the panel. Just give me a really quick definition of what you consider a junior developer, please.
Yeah, in terms of what we do at SoundCloud, we kind of have like a leveling system where it's based on what you've done, and it really takes into like a consideration a lot of different things. It's not necessarily your years of experience, but it's what you've done. And we have a pretty solid process where it can kind of showcase your ability to essentially do something, as well as conversations that happen with the hiring manager as well as the rest of the team. That's usually what we do to kind of define what level you're at. We've had people who had like 7 years of experience, but maybe they didn't quite have the kind of mentorship or worked in the kind of environment that we are, who come in as like a level 1, while we have other people who might be people who come from non-traditional backgrounds but have killer mentorship in what they do, and they come in as like a level 2 just based off of that.
So at the last meetup, my question was the opposite of this one, and I don't think Mark liked my last question. I asked for each of our panelists to share, an experience that didn't go well. I basically said that, someone on the intake looked great, they passed, with flying colors a coding challenge, whatever it was, and then within 90 days, I think everyone realized that it wasn't the right hire. So we're going to take it from maybe the more positive side today. So maybe if you could share either a story about maybe a recent hire, or maybe to frame what you'd love to see, again thinking about junior developers, on what sort of a great from sourcing all the way through onboarding experience for you would look like at your company.
So kind of a success story of a person that hasn't started yet, but essentially how it went was that talked to a person on the phone. Phone call went pretty well. Honestly, I have no idea why I was on the phone with her in the first place, because looking at her resume, it's not the kind of resume I honestly would probably have spoken to, but ended up being on the phone with her. She had a really great personality, really eager to learn, everything like that. So kind of threw my hands up in the air, and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to send them the coding challenge. So I sent her the coding challenge. She did really well on it. Our tech lead reviewed, and he was like, yeah, all around solid coding challenge. And for us, we're working on the JVM, so we're using a lot of things like Scala and functional programming languages and stuff like that. She did her coding challenge in Node, so not a functional programming language. But kind of to Steve Levy's point, it's not really about what you're specifically using, it's your ability to show what you can do. If you show that you're using good practices, for us, we always look into testing, good testing practices, we'll talk to you. And did well on that, so from there, got thumbs up, flew her out to New York City from San Francisco, pretty much wowed but did pretty well on the actual, interview stage, considering what the team kind of saw her as in terms of like level coming in. And I think this was a really interesting scenario for us because for most of our roles, they're typically like more mid to senior level roles. And this was someone who literally, out of college, they went to a boot camp and then, well, they had a computer science background, then went to a boot camp to like learn a couple skills. Then from there, went into like a teaching assistant position. So this person hasn't exactly shipped production level code. And for us, it became also a conversation, which I think any good company should do, is that, do we have the capability to onboard someone who's junior and actually support them in the way that, we want them to be supported and we want them to, essentially succeed and grow within the company. And so went through a couple different conversations from the overall team to like the hiring managers to like the hiring manager and VP, and eventually decided we're just like, we're gonna make the commitment, we're gonna do it. We want this person to succeed. We got the things we needed to do in place for that to happen. And yeah, she's gonna be starting within the next couple months or so, which is pretty exciting.
If there's any panelists, I won't go in a specific order, that maybe your company looks at bootcamp grads, or if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. It'd be great to kind of hear some of the way that you frame that, and maybe either sort of the pro or the con behind it. And again, any order you guys wish.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's interesting. I mean, not to a boot camp. I recently just hired 2 people who, one of them was like an activist in his previous life and went to he had an awesome mentor, whatever the P taught him, it was awesome. Came in, wowed everyone, it went really smooth. So, someone's from not a traditional background. Another person I just hired was like a scientist who solely got into like software development. Not so much a boot camp, but he also learned really great practices from some consultants that, went into his practice to help like set stuff up. Just because you're from a boot camp doesn't mean it's kind of like starting fresh, like any kind of college grad too. It's going to be a grind. It's not going to be easy. You're going to go through a lot. You're going to hear a lot of no's before you get to, even one yes. And it's just not giving up. There's mad studies about there just about kind of like positive psychology stuff, just about optimism, how more optimistic people are more likely to succeed. Martin Seligman, awesome dude. If you like positive psychology, read up on that. But yeah, it's not easy. It's going to be a grind, and you just have to kind of commit to kind of going with that.
So, a red flag. What's the one thing that everyone in this room should not say to you on the phone or an email? And it could be a very specific thing that kind of blew up a process that was actually looking pretty good to start, or something a little bit more general.
Yeah, I think one thing for us, not necessarily like something for junior candidates, but it's just overall. I can't go with the line thing. Don't bullshit. It's we've had people who come in who are like in senior positions who just tried bullshitting their way through certain things, and our engineers picked up on it pretty quickly, and they were just like, we don't care if you don't know it. Just just don't blatantly lie to us, which is I think was like a total red flag. With that comes like kind of the ability to learn. For us, since we are kind of our engineers have pretty strong testing practices. Not everyone has the same testing practices, but we do realize when people are able to like pick up on that, be responsive and be aware of what people are saying. Pick up on the hints. During interviews, people will drop hints that kind of nudge you to a certain way, and just be aware of that. Pick up on those, and kind of go with those. Yeah, what else is there? I think one thing too is just kind of communication skills throughout the interview. You can have a quirky personality. We love that. We love all the quirkiness and what everyone does. But it comes to a point where sometimes that quirkiness might come across as kind of like communication issues almost. If someone can't see you working on a team or working closely with like a product team, and if there are issues that come about in that regard, it's kind of a hard thing to work through because in an interview, you usually have like, I'll say you have one shot because you always kind of like reapply again. People can always change, get better, but it's your shot at that time. Just be conscious of what you're saying and the way you're communicating things. And I think one thing that we always look out for is understanding kind of personality types too. Not everyone's going to be an extrovert and out there. Even if you're introverted, you can still essentially communicate points across.
Just real quick, where is the coding challenge in your process in like one sentence so Joe doesn't yell at me?
Our coding challenge is after the recruiter call. So yeah, it's pretty It's a pretty kind of long coding challenge. So, after the call with me, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste our, engineers' time kind of reviewing it if, for whatever reason, during the actual recruiter call, it's not a fit.